Hi, everyone, and welcome to this CPE webcast, Source Doc Gathering, Delivery, and e-sign Issues. This 50-minute CPE session is brought to you by CPAPracticeAdvisor.com and SafeSend. SafeSend makes several technology solutions for tax and accounting professionals, including its flagship SafeSend Returns, a multi-year winner of CPA Practice Advisor's Innovation Awards. The company has also redefined the way accounting firms digitally assemble, securely deliver, and quickly capture e-signatures from clients for completed tax return packages. SafeSend also offers additional tools like TickTie Calculate, an Adobe Acrobat plugin for accounting pros, and SafeSend Exchange, a secure bidirectional file exchange system. My name is Isaac O'Bannon. I'm managing editor of CPA Practice Advisor, and I'll be the moderator today. I've worked with technology, with CPAs and tax professionals for more than 25 years. CPA Practice Advisor was founded in 1991. I joined in 2002, and we provide digital, print, video, podcasts, and other resources and news for tax and accounting professionals. Before we get started, let me explain how you'll earn your CPE credit on this webcast. This webcast is worth 50 minutes. This webcast is 50 minutes and qualifies for 1 credit of CPE. During the webcast, we will display 4 polling questions. In each poll, you do need to record an answer. This is our verification that you are still watching the webcast. After the event, you'll be presented with a post-event survey evaluation form. Filling out the form is optional, but you must submit it, even blank, as it is a requirement for receiving your CPE. After you click the Submit Evaluation button, your CPE certificate will be sent to the email address you used to register for this event. Note that you can have multiple people attending and viewing the same system, the same monitor, and each professional can get CPE credit. There will be an opportunity to do that at the end. The learning objectives for this CPE event: 1, list common points of frustration for firms and clients throughout the tax engagement. Recognize new technological advances that are automating tax practices. Identify automation solutions, and evaluate how to develop a client-centric approach for tax engagements. Today, I'm joined by Andrew Hatfield and Shirley Chen. Andrew is the co-founder and chief growth officer at SafeSend, and Shirley is a SafeSend product enthusiast and digital transformation practitioner. And now we're ready to begin. Andrew?
Thank you so much, Isaac. Appreciate being here today. Thank you for being here with us. Shirley, thank you for being on as well. I assume everyone can hear me. We had a little bit of audio difficulty coming in today, so if you can't hear me, just let me know through the chat. Otherwise, I'm assuming that we're good. The subject that we're going to cover today is source document gathering, delivery, and e-sign issues. So for all of you out there who are operating inside of a public tax and accounting firm, and in particular, if you're within the tax department, you'll understand a lot of our content today and how it relates to the workflow process around the tax return process in general, from gathering source documents that you need to prepare your returns, to delivering tax returns, and then just dealing with e-sign issues around things like 8817 or 8879s, 7216s on the front end, POAs, engagement letters, etc. So, as Isaac mentioned, I'm Andrew Hatfield. I am the co-founder and chief growth officer of SafeSend. And we're going to get into the agenda today, which is we're going to kind of level set by talking about the big picture. What is the tax process from a whole, and then how do these different pieces we're going to talk about today fit in to that process. And then we're going to dive down a little level deeper from that surface level and take a look at the gathering problem. Obviously, tax returns are getting filed, so we're getting the source documents and data that we need from our clients to be able to file returns ultimately, but we put a lot on extension when we don't have the information we need. And we also just have a very cumbersome process of trying to transparently work with the client throughout the year to understand what's needed from the client from a source document and data perspective, to be able to prepare returns, what they've delivered, how we're matching up the things they give us to our document request list, et cetera. So we'll talk about that. And then for those of you that have been using e-signatures, or maybe just sort of using it for some clients, or even if you've gone to volume using, any of the logos out there in the e-sign space, we're going to talk about some common hurdles that we see, what may lead to some frustration with clients when you use e-sign, and some of the things that we can avoid. And then along the way, we're going to break up different parts today, where we're going to allow Shirley to come in and show you pieces of technology that sort of help smooth out the workflow and the process and some of the hurdles in the different sections we talk about. As Isaac mentioned earlier, it is the CPE event. We have 4 total polling questions. So 4 total questions. The last one will be at the end. And we'll have questions throughout. We'll make sure that everybody gets time to answer those. And we should have some time for Q&A, but I do want to point out, as a bit of housekeeping, that we have on with us as well SafeSend staff who will be answering questions live. So just chat questions in, and we'll get those answered live as we go through, and we'll take some live to the audience as well. So make sure and ask questions along the way as we go through the process here. So the big picture, automating the tax process. Let's jump in and sort of level set what that means. So we're specifically talking about the tax department, and in particular, the tax process around returns. And so that's a big life cycle. It's very seasonal. It happens throughout the year, from the first part of gathering the source documents, getting engagement letters signed, 7216s, and just getting all the data and the questions answered in the tax organizer out there, so that you can move to the middle section, which is preparation. That's where you've seen the industry as a whole have a lot of focus in this area, with lots of technology over the past, decade or more. We're talking about the OCR products that are out there, the tax compliance products, et cetera. And then you have the back end, what we call finish and file. It's assembly, delivery, and e-file. And what this really does is it allows, after the tax return has been prepared and has gone through, final review, now it's time to get the tax return packages out the door to the clients. And so you have to assemble those, you have to, get those prepped, and you have to send them out to the client, do a delivery method. And then inside of that tax package, there's all sorts of things that you have to do from, as a client, you have to review, you have to approve, you have to sign, you have to pay things. And so we'll talk about that as well. So really, as a company, SafeSend is sort of bookends to this process. We've concentrated heavily on the back end for a number of years, and we also participate in the front end of gathering and have some really interesting, innovative things that we're doing on the front end around AI. And I would say that the industry has sort of solved this 3-step process by focusing on the middle part first, and then the back end. And now you'll see vendors coming back around to focus on the front end. And the reason that hasn't been focused on as much as the other 2 components is because the technology really wasn't there for document matching up to documents you need from your client to the request list that you have out, and then getting the data to flow without too much manual entry. And the maturity of AI is just going to make this easier and easier to do from a perspective of getting it right, which is going to be an advantage to firms out there, where you finally have something to solve this problem, rather than just all the emails back and forth with clients and uploading source documents through, secure file transfer links and things like that. Okay, so let's move into the next section, which is going to start off with polling question number 1. So Isaac, I'll turn it back over to you for polling question number 1.
All right, the first question for our attendees: does your firm feel like it has an easy and seamless electronic gathering process that clients understand and complete? I just lost my questions. If you can read the rest of those questions. I see a yes, no, and yes, but we're always looking to improve our processes. Right now, the early results look like about now it's about half of the respondents are saying they do not currently have such a plan that their clients understand and complete. More than a third are looking to improve their processes, though. And right now, about 16% are saying they already have such a thing in place.
Well, perfect. That kind of falls right in line to what we're hearing the market out there echo back to us and what our clients are reporting. It's, as I mentioned earlier, we're getting this done because we're filing returns ultimately. So we're getting this information gathered. But I heard a pretty good term the other day. If you've ever heard dialing for dollars, maybe, sometimes in sales organizations, they use that. I heard firms say we're dialing for documents, meaning that they've got their staff out there just dialing the phone to clients or sending lots and lots of emails, just trying to get the things that they need from those clients. And I thought that was a pretty interesting term that they were using. So let's move into the gathering problem. So what is the problem on the front end of the tax process as it relates to gathering source documents? First of all, gathering, the word has many meanings. So we think about gathering source documents, 1099s, W-2s, brokerage statements, et cetera. There's really a lot of data there that can be gathered electronically these days in a more modern format. And then there's also things like engagement letters that need to go out and be signed, tax organizers, questionnaires, 7216s that need to be signed. So there's more than just source document gathering. It's really information gathering and sign off as well. And for years, firms have struggled with gathering because it's a timely process. It gets a poor response rate, can be very confusing for your client. It happens throughout the year, although it's a little heavier heading into busy season or tax season. It happens throughout the year with the returns that go on extensions and just in general. And the biggest issue has always been that clients just can't recall what's been delivered versus what's still needed. Seems like a pretty simple issue, but when you look at all the variation of the things that, as a firm we're collecting from our client, it's issues by gathering formats. So you have paper, you have different types of document formats, Excel spreadsheets, PDFs, the list goes on. And then you have signature processes that happen in there, as we mentioned on some of the documents. And then you have the format of the technology that's being used if it's not paper. So a lot of this is done through email or email attachment, where you might send your client an email with a link to upload the documents you need. That might be through a secure file transfer or a portal. And then, of course, we have the e-sign now. So as I mentioned on the engagement letters and 7216s, they might be going through that. And you don't have a lot of vendors that specialize in this area of gathering. And the reason why is because, as I mentioned earlier, the technology for really getting the data and identifying the documents that come in wasn't there to be really accurate. And of course, if we're not getting 100% accuracy, then what are we doing? So AI is a game changer on that, as I mentioned earlier. And then there's data flow. Through technology, as I mentioned, and especially with AI, we can grab more data out of the things that are being gathered from your clients and pump that data into the middle section, which is where the OCR systems and the tax compliance systems reside. So what are firms reporting? So why do we know that this is such a big problem? This is because our clients and the market in general have come back and said, gathering is now one of the largest looming problems out there because we've solved, not we, but we as vendors and as a community have solved more workflow processes in that second preparation process and a third, the back end of delivery. And so now there's still this big hole left on the front. So it's really time consuming for staff and professionals. And again, I want to go back to this point that most of you on the call can understand, or the webcast. Manually matching source documents received by your clients to the document request list, the DRLs, is pain consuming for your staff. And so if you think about it, there's really no great way to be able to track, remind, and report what's been collected and what hasn't been collected. And that really creates frustration with your client, and it's manually difficult inside your firm. So if clients get frustrated with that, I know I do as a client. I can't remember 6 months later what you've asked me for, what I've delivered, and what is still needed that I need to provide to the firm. And so, that's really kind of the biggest issue, is no way of knowing what percentage of clients' documents have been received, and the firm doesn't know how many clients are completed, what percentage of which clients have been completed, or what percentage of a client has been completed. And that's where technology can really help and be a game changer here. Gathering methods differ from return type. So whether it's 1040s, 1041 entities, et cetera, the 1040s really have the document request list that go with the organizers. We're going to show you some things that we're doing with organizers and request lists to help make this process a lot easier. And then again, we're going to talk more about tracking. How do you know what percentage of your client's documents have been received? Because that's still one of these large underlying problems. So Isaac, let's go back to the audience. So let's go ahead and get polling question number 2 out there, if you don't mind, please.
Okay, the next polling question is, how does your firm request source documents? Paper requests, email requests? I'm waiting for a couple of responses to come in so I can see the questions again, because I'm once again blocked from seeing them. My apologies to the attendees. We'll get this back here. I can see it.
I can read them. Can you see them, Isaac? I can. Okay, perfect.
Okay. Got it. So the options were paper request, email request, secure file transfer documents, request list, more sophisticated technology, or a mix of the above. And right now, the initial results show a large majority of them are getting their source documents through a mix. Then its singular large one is email requests. 20% of these respondents are requesting source docs via email. Tell us why that's a big no-no.
Yeah, thanks. I think it's first of all, these are pretty standard. We do surveys out to our client base, and this matches with what we hear back. There's a lot of firms that come to SafeSend looking for a solution. They report that they're doing most of their collection via a mix, but the heaviest percentage of any singular option would be email requests. And the problem with the problem with a mix is that it's disparate, and you can't standardize something that's disparate. And so, of course, that just adds complexity to trying to manage that process. When it comes to email requests, it's really no centralized tracking. So although you have an email, here's the 10 things that I need now, and your client sends you 2 things, and you go back and say, okay, now I need 8 of those 10, and you're sort of going back and forth. There's no centralized ability to track what you've asked for, what the client's delivered, and then match up what's been provided by the client to what's needed, and have, as we mentioned earlier, those sort of completion ratios and transparent reporting of what's out there. So email requests has been a heavy use in the market for this process. Still one of the most widely used today to get documents back and forth, or documents gathered from clients to firms, but it's really static. It's really difficult to go back and forth without tracking. And so this creates a lot of emails at everybody's inbox, et cetera, and it's, of course, manually time consuming to do it. So I want to pause here, and I want to turn the presentation over to Shirley Chen at SafeSend, who's going to be able to give you a visual of like how this process could look. We're going to show some technology around the gathering process here. Shirley, I'll turn it over to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Andrew. And give me a few minutes. I'm going to transition into a live demonstration mode. And the system just takes a few seconds. And here we go. You should all be seeing the program on my browser. And as Andrew talked about, we're not there trying to solve a problem if you're not having. So from the polling questions, it really set the foundation. We understand that some of you may or may not have the best practice, and some of you say, yep, I'm also open looking for the program. So from the screen, I want you to pay attention to a couple of things. So first of all, the solution that SafeSend provides is all remote, that we understand that the industry is moving to embracing the remote work technology. And we understand that there are different needs. So from the agenda today, I want to show you the organizer. So it's now getting closer and closer to the season now. You might already be thinking about how you're going to do to gather source documents. So I'm going to do a live demonstration from the beginning. So I'm going to simply upload a CCH organizer. And for the firms out there, if you're using LaSearch, GoSystem, UltraText, and all that, just know that we support them all. And conceptually, it's really easy for you to understand is what we are doing is we simply convert your organizer into a fillable PDF so our clients will understand what is the ask of them. And while I'm doing the demonstration for a one-off organizer, just know that we know it can be a tedious process if you're repeating things over and over again. So you can also utilize batch processing. And for the firm, if you normally have engagement letter together with the organizer, you can do that here. So again, I'm doing the one-off and you are seeing the popping up. So I'm dragging and dropping where I need client to be signing. In this case, the screen is asking you, would you like to ask this signing act as mandatory? So know that it's easier that you can set boundaries and let the client know what's the ask right here. So I'm dragging and dropping to one-off, and then if you're using the batch processing, we're going to go ahead to apply that same methodology to your entire batch. So again, we're always thinking about automation and things like that. And individual tabs just gives you that visual cue. So your staff member can see what you're sending out to the client. So it's really good. For example, maybe you need them to sign additional document. So from research, we're finding out that client gets confused quite easily if they're getting multiple emails. So combining every single thing into one single package, you can do that. You can also add custom questions. So, and visually, they're going to see those sections right away as a first part, and they will be able to interact with that. Another problem we're solving is when you're emailing their PDF organizers, or if you send those out to the portal, people may or may not have printers at home. So now they need to find a right tool. They need to open that. They don't have scanners, so they're using and they're struggling. So we're really trying to make things really easy for them. So I just went ahead, sent over the organizer, and now let's walk through the client experience. They receive that invitation, and once they click through this encrypted link, they're going to see something they understand. It looks like the organizer envelope with your logo. Their name makes sense. They go ahead to click on Get Started. In this case, we're solving another problem Andrew will talk about later is client may or may not enjoy the portal login password process. They don't use that often enough. And if your staff member is constantly reaching out to them, resetting their password every single season, then maybe it's time for you to be thinking about, is there a better way? So in this case, they simply get that one-time code. So I'm doing the demo so you can all see what's going on in the workflow. So we strongly recommend you send those out to the client as an email, as a code, as a text message. So now they're inside. Remember when we set up the signing request, we made that as required. And now visually, that is the only thing they can click on. Again, you are setting the boundaries. The client can help and work with you. Very easy for them to be doing here. If they want to be signing from their mobile devices, from their iPad, they can do that. They can accept a signature or signing by creating a signature using their finger from their iPad. Go ahead, do that. Very easy for them to mark completion. And the design principle, again, is about seamless, less frustration. You need client to work on information. Again, the gathering phase can be daunting for them and for you. And now they are easily able to complete all the questions right here. They are clicking on yes or no. They can click on the pages, and all your questions produced by your tech software are here. And this is the number one thing that firms are so happy we're doing that, because they might be spending hours converting those into fillable PDF organizers, or they have been asking text vendors to make this happen to them. And traditionally, people are not doing a whole lot of here. So this is what we do, very simple. And for example, this client probably have moved. So in this case, they don't need to have a new tool. They can click through and update anything. They can also use the notes here and tell you that they have moved. And you notice that after they edited any sections, now they're seeing the color is different. When you download that, you can also see the visual differences. The font type is different. Again, very easy. You want to create this seamless experience for your client. All the prior year data that you produced by the organizer will be visible for you and for your client. They can use this, or they can work with the document request list and simply come in here to send over their spouse W-2, their own W-2s and things like that. Again, really easy for them to do that gathering phase. And we know, as Andrew talked about, the gathering process might be lasting for weeks, sometimes months. They can use a same methodology, come back, gather more, send over more files when they think they're done. Again, the problem we're solving is how do you know they're done? So you can begin preparing for their returns. They can mark completion. And in this case, you can let them know, hey, I have 2 minimum required questions. Would you please answer those? So they can go ahead to answer that in order for them to mark completion. So very easy for them. And the other way is if you know some of the client, they don't like those 85 pages organizer, but you still want them to send files back to you securely. They can also use this method, update files, easy for them to do this from their mobile devices as well. They can use that as take a picture, drag and drop those, and then they will let you know. As Andrew talked about, when you're using the paper method, you're using the portal, you're using the email, there's no central location to help you to track what's going on. And SafeSend fixed that. So any organizer you send over, you have a very clean, wonderful dashboard. I love this. So you can search by the client ID is a global search, or the client name. You can break those out. It depends on how many EROs there are in your firm. And everything we're going to mark, yep, they have e-signed the document, they have completed the organizer. They also upload some source document for you. When you are ready to download, you can grab every single thing at the same time. Just click on the download all button. Now it's there. And if clients send you files over a period of time, so you can also grab just the new one. So it's a feature. We know that some of you are trying to do that manual matching. Have they sent over this? Oh, it's a duplication, things like that. We know it's not easy. So this is a real quick demonstration on the 1040 organizers. And we know that there are other return type out there. You're helping your clients. So let's take a look at what we're doing in that document request list that you're all using. So your team member can set up different templates. And what it's doing is you look at your current workflow. If you're doing a lot of manual typing, that is really the area for you to streamline those workflows. So typing the same thing over and over again is not the best way. And you can set up the due date. The year is related to retention period. So for me, it's 30, but you can set this up as short as 1 day, all the way up to 7 years if you want to. You can use a security code. You can give them that one-time code or a Q&A method. So really up to you. And the list is set up, but it's also dynamic. You can adjust those on the fly. I already have the payroll forms. I don't need the shareholder information, so you can get rid of those. Just one click, it's ready to go. And if you need to add other information, you can do that. So very easy. And I'm doing the demonstration from the web plugin. For other firms, if you're using the Outlook, you can also sync with your contact and type in. So very easy. The interface is working as Outlook as well. So like Andrew talked about, tracking can be surprisingly the part that you're spending a lot of time. And what SafeSend is doing is we're going to synchronizing both on the taxpayer side and the firm side, so you can see what's going on. So we send over a document request list. Client is seeing something very simple. You tell them the due date and they click on upload file. So all the buttons are designed to make things easy for your client. And I chose that authentication method. So I'm going to type in my email. So the system will send me that one-time code. Again, we provide all these wonderful tools for tax accounting firms. This is really only the industry that we focus on, and we're really trying to help you. So client get the code, they come back in. They can interact with this, very easy for them to do, send over their journal entry, and they got more information, just really easy for them to be using. While I attach those two files, if I think I'm done, I can also mark completion. We're going to tell them what exactly is the percentage. And from your end, when I refresh the browser, you can see that the system is going ahead to mark, yep, client sent over 2 things. These are the date and time they sent over. You have the preview functionality. You can go ahead to download. We know how important it is to keep your client engaged, so you can send them reminders. You can resend the whole list if you wish to. So again, very simple. We understand it's a tedious process, but so important to make your staff members understand how they can be use the best of their time, and also helping your client to engage with you. So that's a quick demonstration. I'm going to turn this back to you, Andrew, for you to continue the webinar.
Great. Thank you, Shirley. Much appreciated. And we're going to move into part 3. And part 3 is common hurdles of eSign. And I believe we have our graphic on screen now. So in firms, one of the main uses of eSign would be around the 8879 process. Although eSign applies across all departments, it can reach into a lot of different workflows and a lot of different documents that need to be electronically signed. I think every firm out there probably does, and if not should, have some flavor of an eSign solution because it's needed in a broad basis across the business. And it's very commonplace today. So all of us have likely performed an e-sign when we're sent a document that somebody's requested us to e-sign, and it's pretty simple to get things signed, especially if we're just talking about a very standardized, type of document out there in the world. The problem is when you get into specific workflows, especially industry-specific workflows, then you start having challenges that a lot of e-sign providers who are more broad-based, serving all businesses, have struggled to really get in and solve in a very, below surface level detailed method. And what that ends up doing is it ends up putting your firm in a situation where a client can become frustrated trying to go through and complete a process. So I just want to call out a few examples. Some of you that have gone to volume with the eSign probably know some of these, and some of you that are sort of looking to go to more volume with eSign with your clients, then this will be some call outs of things that you need to be looking out for. So if we start at the top, if this is a clock and there's a 12 at the very top, then we'd want to start here with our scenario that staff needs to send a 1040 to a client, and they're asking for an 8879 as an e-sign. And so somebody in the firm gets ready to send this out, and they have to upload the 8879 to an e-sign product, and the product will ask them to put in an email address of who they're sending to. And if it's a married filing jointly, it'll be a taxpayer and a spouse signature that's required. And you realize, as many firms do, that they don't have all the email addresses for the spouse. And so if you don't have an email address for a spouse on a married filing jointly, where you're sending to 2 unique profile people, then a lot of systems don't allow you to continue because they require 2 unique email addresses. And so that sort of breaks down a process where you have to go and collect this information, and that just takes time. Another scenario, very similar, but just to add on to this, is that you have a taxpayer and spouse who share an email address in general, or more commonly, they share an email address for things like their tax returns, et cetera. And you have an email address for the taxpayer and the spouse that's exactly the same email address for 2 different unique people. Many systems out there won't allow you to send to the same email address to 2 different unique profile people, and then that's a breakdown in the process as well. And then it's kind of manually tasking. So let's say that you're an admin in a firm and you're ready to send out 8879s for e-sign requests to your clients. When you upload that 8879 to the e-sign product, then you have to identify who's going to sign where, and you're dragging and dropping those signature boxes. Well, if you're doing this across tens, hundreds or thousands of 8879s, you get in a position where ultimately you'll drag the taxpayer signature box where the spouse should sign and vice versa. Your client receives it and they can't sign because it's the wrong people for the different signatures, and it creates frustration, and you have to redo it. One of the other common mistakes that I see is that firms are separately sending the 8879s rather than sending the entire tax package together in its natural order. So if we think about in paper, when we would send out the tax packages, there would be easy to understand instructions of, read this, sign here, this is what you need to pay or mail in. When you get in an electronic world, it becomes harder because you're dealing with generally a big static PDF document that includes filing instructions. It includes anything from 8879s to POAs, et cetera, that need to be signed. It's got estimated payments, and it's got tax prep fee invoicing. And so getting the right order to that is difficult if you don't have very segmented workflow steps. But so commonly what firms do is they say, I really need to get the 8879 signed. I'm just going to upload the 8879 outside of the entire return package. The problem there is that it makes it easier for the client to go through and sign it. But what it does complicate is the fact that they could sign it out of order. They may not review the return in the right order before they sign. They might do the 8879 signature before they've reviewed everything, and that's problematic. So we always say it should all go together instead of separating it out. And then sometimes e-sign requests go to spam. This is a simple solution, which is give a heads up to your client that the e-signature request is going to be coming from a no reply at DocuSign or at Adobe Sign or at whatever the logo of the e-sign product is. Even though it'll be masked to say it's coming from your firm, they really come from a no reply system. And so your clients have to be aware that they're going to get it and make sure that they go out and find it when it's been sent. And so sometimes you can just send a secondary email that says, I just sent you your 8879s, your tax package for review and signature. If you don't see it, go check your spam and then make sure we correct that problem. And then KBA questions are difficult. So KBA questions are required by the IRS on 1040s for taxpayers to sign the 8879s. An example of a KBA question would be, of these 4 addresses, which have you previously lived? And then, of course, there'll be a none of the above option. Sometimes you can't remember all the answers to those questions. Sometimes the data in the databases where those questions are generated from, like credit card bureaus, et cetera, is just inaccurate. And so it's really tough for your clients. There'll be some small segment of clients that really get frustrated and can't pass. And so the answer to that is your system needs to have the availability to stop and say, we're sorry, you can't go forward with KBA questions and sign electronically, but here's the option where we can just print, sign, and just move on to the next method to get this completed. So there's some other examples in here. I'm not going to cover them all. This presentation is something that goes along with the webcast that you can actually download and use internally in your firm. But just to know, this is just a good circle of frustrations that can come up. And there's always solutions to this out there, whether it's something you're doing manually to inform your clients of what the process is going to be, or whether it's something that you need to be asking of an e-sign vendor to make sure that they solve those workflows. Then just to cover this slide briefly, the challenges of electronic delivery in general. So if you're still sending lots and lots of things through email attachments, as I know there are many firms out there that do, the clients really struggle accessing the encrypted PDF passwords. So you're supposed to have encryption around things that are, PI, personal information. And we've all in our lives gotten a PDF with a password, and you can't open it, you can't remember it, you don't know what it is, and it creates this whole, frustrating circle of back and forth with the firm. And you lose the ability to provide instructions and logical presentment. Email attachments are pretty static. They don't really walk or tell the client what they need to do in what order and what needs to be completed. And a lot of times email attachments are just something that a taxpayer, client of the firm, is being asked to print, ink, sign, and return, which if you're on the go or don't have the right equipment inside your house or your mobile, it becomes very difficult. So client portals were sort of the next evolution of, we're going to be able to deliver things electronically and provide client-facing storage. They're great at client-facing storage. We say they're poor at transactional deliveries between your client and the firm. And then the number one reason is they require login and passwords. And so I would bet most firms on here get inundated with clients calling, I can't remember my password. And that becomes pretty frustrating. And I would, like the industry statistics are, there are some firms get high adoption on their portals. Usually they're not using it heavily for back and forth secure file transfer, mostly for that client-facing storage. But most firms out there are getting less than 35% of clients to adopt, especially on their 1040 clients, because they don't interact with it enough to remember the passwords and logins and that. And then e-sign solutions came around, and they're great. Every firm needs some flavor of an e-sign solution, but a lot of them only solve one requirement, and that's just getting a kind of singular document back and signed pretty fast without addressing all the workflows around it. And so when you go to volume or you get into workflows inside of different departments, it becomes frustrating for your clients. Isaac, let's turn back to the audience and go to polling question number 3, please.
All right, polling question number 3 for you CPE participants. How did your firm deliver returns this past busy season? A, in paper format or mail. B, in in-person appointments. C, email PDF. Clients print, sign, and scan it back. Delivery via portal, or all of the above. And while we wait for this, is this another one where you generally expect to see a collection of firms using all sorts of methods, Andrew?
I do. I would expect it to be a lot of all of the above.
All right, and your prediction came right. So far, the results show just over 50% selected the all of the above. Email, PDF, and delivery to portal are about tied, and then the others fall in a little bit behind that.
My comment here on this for the audience is that when things aren't standardized and they're disparate, then they become very hard to control, which becomes very difficult to be more efficient internally, but also allow your client to have a process which isn't going to be frustrating. And it also leads to higher adoption when you standardize, because your staff and your clients get used to the process and you kind of work out the kinks and everybody gets educated on what they need to do. So I see a lot of firms that are interacting with their clients from a documentation standpoint, whether that's engagement letters, organizers, tax returns, et cetera, that each client, and maybe depending on who they're a client of in a firm as a partner, they end up being very different in how they're getting the documents back and forth in the tax process. So example is something might go out in paper to a client, but then the next thing for 8879 goes out as an e-sign, the tax return package goes out as a PDF attachment. And so you just get into these variations, which are very hard to control, and that makes it hard to be efficient, and that makes it hard to get a low frustration level and education level for the client to adopt. Let's turn it back. Shirley, let's turn it back to you. I know we've got about 17 minutes left, and we'll have a final polling question and a wrap up from Isaac. So you probably have about 10 minutes here on this last portion.
Sounds good. So Andrew, I will keep it short and sweet. And let's do that. So we're back in the live mode, and you should be once again looking at your side of things. So again, this view, for those of you who are not familiar with SafeSend, will always be the first screen that a user launches. And now we're looking at the SafeSend return. So as Andrew talked about, and thank you all for responding to that question, we understand that you are really trying your best to send out the information to your client. So we're here with you. So standardizing the workflow, send things out. And we know, like, come crunch time, like busy season is like really busy. People are joking around that they don't see their family for like 2 weeks. Not fun. Like, you just want to cross and make the deadline. So I just show you that it's really easy for you simply dragging and dropping for a return here. And I'm going to show you how easy and simple for you to send those out. As Andrew talked about, simply the return that both spouse email address could be daunting. So here in SafeSend, you only need one. So it's not a problem for them to use the same email twice. They do need to go through signing separately. That is a requirement by the IRS. So in this group tab, we collate the entire client copy. again, Andrew talked about that you want to turn that static PDF file into a guide experience, and we're here to help you. So on the eFile tab, you can see the program already automatically place all the sign and date boxes for you. So for you, those folks out there, the tool you're using, if you're dragging and dropping every single time, God bless you. You're extremely patient, and also time to think about automation. Again, just like the organizer, if you need your client to sign additional things, you can do that here. So, and for some of you, you're saying, I like to control everything that clients are getting, we get it. Yeah, it's not going out of the door without your blessing. Vouchers, we're going to pick those up and then remind your client. We know clients are clients, right? You send those out and you're hoping they're adults, they will know what to do. Yes or no? And we also know that it's important for you to get paid. So if your package has invoice, we're going to pick it up. If it doesn't have, you're not using for your tax offer, for that, you can also drag and drop those here. For those from there already thinking more about automation, you can also send that and we can redirect your client to your payment site. Again, thinking about how do you transition your client to become self-serve so you can create a virtual binder. I often talk about this is not a sign and done scenario. So if they need a copy of their return 6 months down the road, 3 months later, should be able to retrieve that without you hand-holding those and then send those out to them. So again, this is a quick demonstration about the firm side, that how you're going to send those return back to them. I'm going to give time back to Andrew, and then Andrew is going to do a closing, and then we will come back to do a walkthrough about client experience.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Shirley. But in moving into the conclusion, Shirley's going to show the last part of the taxpayer experience, which is a very quick and painless experience for taxpayers to get through the workflow on their side. One note here is that, as I mentioned earlier, there will be a lot of very good movement on the gathering side through AI. And when people ask, what is AI going to do for firms in the industry, it's going to be a lot, and it'll affect many different components of processes within your firm. But one of the areas that I can specifically speak to that we're working in every day and we're seeing really amazing results is really on that gathering side for the ability to recognize documents that are coming in and data that's coming in from the gathering process, identify them, match them up to what is needed so that you can prepare the return, and then allow that those documents to be and data to flow into that middle section of preparation to automate some of the manual process there as well. And so I think that's going to be a big thing that's going to help the industry. And you'll see that probably over the next 12 to 24 months really start to come to fruition. So the conclusion here is that with SafeSend Suite, look, it can really help you on the front and back end of the tax process. So with completion for finish and file in the back end, we do assembly and delivery, e-sign, K1 and distribution, invoice and payments, tracking, reporting, and reminding all around tax returns. And then on the front end, what we call tax ready, we have great processes for automating engagement letters and e-sign on those with 7216s. Shortening organizers from being so bulky, getting those down to something that's much easier to deliver to a client, getting to the questions and things in the DRL document request list that are really needed, and then really working on gathering with AI right now as well, so that you can have great matching, tracking, reporting, and reminding, and then that data flow, that part of it as well is a big project for us right now to flow that to the middle section. So Shirley, I'm going to go ahead and launch polling question number 4, and then I'll turn it over to you to do the taxpayer side so we make sure and get this polling question out. Isaac, can we do the last polling question, please?
Okay. Polling question number 4, are you interested in learning more about SafeSend Tax Ready solution offering? Yes, no, I'm not the right person, or you're just here for the CPE and no contact.
And I was going to say, Isaac, we're very open to somebody that says I'm not the right person or just want the CPE and no contact. So we ask this question, so that we understand who to contact potentially and who not to, and be very respectful of that.
Yeah, and we do, some of those people, but you also have a good number, 40%, that say they are ready. They're interested in learning a bit more about the SafeSend tax ready solution. So I think there's a lot of ways with SafeSend to improve the client communication process around tax.
Well, I certainly appreciate that, and following up on the fact that we have a good percentage that's interested. Shirley, this would be a great time to switch back to you, and we're going to show the taxpayer experience, and we'll let Shirley walk you through that. It's a pretty fast and simple process. So Shirley, we'll turn it back to you for that.
Yeah, thank you all so much. I know that it's not easy for you to take time from your busy schedule, so love to share with you about that, what we have assembled together on the client experience. So we just sent over that request, and you should be again seeing my Gmail link right here. So again, Andrew talked about when you're thinking about any tool that you're touching and sending out to your client. So anything client facing, we want that to be really simple and be consistent. So there is your logo, a brief message. They click on this encrypted link. Again, visually, they understand what's going on. So again, they don't get scared away because it looks like paper folder, right? Some of you are still delivering paper. So using it, doing that overlay about something they understand, the user experience is really easy. We are also talking about login and password frustration. People don't remember the password they log in. And if you are asking your client to add another app on their phone, they are ready to go on a strike, believe it or not. They just don't have another thing. It's just too much for them. So again, the code showing here on the screen here, but ideally send this to them as a text message. Now they're in the folder and they can see something they understand right away, right? Most of your clients, they don't read transmittal. So we pull those out for them. And this is automation in play. We understand that staff doesn't have time. And when the busy season, your patient is also running thin. So we also pull out if your returns has the estimate voucher reminders, we will also send those out. Simple 3-step process. Guided experience, they can complete this from their phone, not a problem. If there is an invoice, prep fee right here. So again, we understand how important it is for you all get paid. They will be able to click on pay now, and we will redirect them to however you want them to pay you. Again, as long as your vendor can provide that with a single link, some firm will ask you to route that to your firm's website. Happy to do that, and no charge, not a problem. Now they're in that reviewing stage. Client is skimming through, they can click on the bookmarks. Most of them, we know they don't read. If they read, they're going to see, oh, wow, I can send a portion of the return to my financial advisor, to my cousin, my mortgage broker, things like that. Again, thinking about how you can help clients to do more, call you less. We also understand that people may have different preferences, but from your point of view, can you streamline the workflow? So we are going to present people with options. Manual sign, they go down that path. Something they know, e-sign, really painless. We ask them to enter the date of birth, give consent, spouse email. If you enter, they verify. If you did not, they must be doing that right here. And now we're going to educate them. This is not your CPAs asking you questions. This is really an IS thing. So some numbers, some stacks here. SafeSend's number is 97% success rate. This year we have processed more than 1.4 million returns, so the numbers are absolutely accurate. And the other thing is, if they're for some reason not passing through this, we're just going to switch them over. They can click on the start and we point to where they need to be signing, going ahead, Just really simple. If you add anything, they must be signing every single thing at the same time. We give them a checklist. Spouse also need to be signing. We're going to show them all the vouchers. So you can easily have client to download their voucher. They click on pay online. We're going to send them to IRS, send them to Georgia and things like that. Support every single state and remind your client every quarter. So that's a quick, short and sweet demonstration about SafeSend return on the client side. And back to Isaac for wrapping up.
Okay, thank you everybody for attending this webcast today. If you had questions that we did not get to, someone from the SafeSend team will be able to reach out and contact you and hopefully address each of those questions. I want to thank SafeSend for helping make this event possible. It's because of them that we're able to offer you guys free CPE. You will now be presented with a post-event survey for the event. It'll appear on your screen, and you do need to submit it. Then you'll receive the CPE credit, as I said, to the email that you registered for this event at. Also, if there were additional people that are going to need CPE credit from your office, just send their names and email to editors@cpapracticeadvisor.com. We look forward to the next CPE webcast. Keep an eye on cpapracticeadvisor.com for our upcoming events. This event will end now, and our audio will end now.